They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Yo, what is up everyone? I'm back today with my round 3 match for RU Open, and this was against Laurel, now known as Energy, on Smogon, and it's safe to say he wasn't feeling too too happy with the result. But anyway, one sec, let me just switch to the sides, because let's go to my side. But yeah, so my opponent, I was looking at his team from the preview, and it seemed like it was a team that I could handle with my own. There was no like clear weaknesses. All I had to really be careful of was mainly the Salazzle. Machamp could have been a problem if Mudsdale went down, but other than that, there wasn't too many issues. I just had to be a bit wary. But anyway, let's get straight into the match. So I lead off with Center Scorch, just because I know it can get off. It has a pretty good matchup against everything, and I'll just be able to knock. So I knock the P2 instantly, because I know that with the knock, with the Eviolite gone, I'll just be able to like take it out a lot easier. So I just Leech Life, not wanting to mess around, and then I knew he was going to switch here, but I didn't knock just because I didn't want to mess around with the P2. I just wanted it dead. So I stay in and decide to get another knock on the Salazzle, because it's probably out of everything on the team the biggest threat. So I thought, why not get some damage on it? And then I go for a knock to try and kill it, but he actually switches to Vaporeon. And 5 turns in, Center Scorch has already managed to knock 3 Pokemon, and Salazzle's at like what, 29%, P2's at 38%. So it's a solid start. And then I switch out because obviously I can't kill it, so I go to Vileplume, and here I make a really dumb play. I just growth for some reason. Like, I knew he was gonna go to Salazzle, but I just didn't do anything about it. So anyway, I switch after that silly play, go to Jellicent, because I'll be able to take anything. Then I go for a Scald, not wanting to go for a Wisp, because Xatu's there and also Salazzle was in, so it didn't really make sense. So I get the burn luckily, then I go to Sil Valley, and here I'm pretty confident that he was just going to switch, so I go for a U-turn, try and get some momentum up. He brings in Stunfisk, and that's fine. I go to Mudsdale as he brings in his Xatu, presumably to stop me from getting Rocks up, but I just Earthquake anyway because I didn't want to take that risk. But here I just Rock Slide anyway as he teleports out, gets some good chip on that Xatu, and it's at 45%, meaning it's not going to be able to switch into Mudsdale again. And here he goes into Vaporeon, and I'm fairly certain that this is the perfect chance in the match for me to get my Stealth Rocks up, as I'm more inclined to switch out because he has the type advantage in this situation and Xatu's at low health. So it's a perfect chance to get Rocks, and I get Rocks up. Then I switch out immediately, I go to Jellicent, and then I was fairly certain that... why did I taunt? I'm not sure why I taunted, I completely forgot why I taunted, but that didn't really make sense in hindsight. Maybe... Okay, I remember why I taunted. I taunted just in case this Vaporeon had Toxic or anything. I didn't want to get Toxic or something like that. But anyway, it goes to Machamp, which is the good play. And I have the Cobra Berry, so I decide to stay in and actually get some chip off on the Machamp, because Mudsdale is kind of at 50%, so I have to be a bit careful with the Machamp. So here I was fairly certain he was just going to knock again, so I go to Sil Valley because obviously you can't knock its item. So here I'm going to force a switch, and I predict the switch into Stunfisk again, and I just U-turn out. And I believe I go into Mudsdale again, and here I do just Earthquake, and he hits me with a counter, which I was actually pretty surprised by. And then anyway, just going to Tauros to revenge, I Earthquake, he goes to Xatu, it's all good. And here he actually tricks me a Scarf, and I should have realized this from team preview, but I just didn't think it through. But it was a Scarf Xatu, and he tricks me a Scarf. Now that isn't necessarily bad for me, because his body slam resist is nearly dead, Stunfisk's at 30%, and everything else takes a good chunk, so like Salazzle will just pretty much straight up die. Machamp will take a good like 45%, P2 will die at this range, and Vaporeon takes around, I think it's around 40, okay, it takes 36. So I just go for a body slam to force a Wish, and then I go into Jellicent, as he does get that health back from the Wish. And now here I misplayed, and I was certain that he was going to go into P2 to get a recover off and stuff, but in hindsight that was a mistake on my part, because obviously I'd just be able to taunt right after, and I didn't really think it through. I think at this point I was playing a little bit quickly. But anyway, I go back into Tauros as he wishes, and yeah, then I just switch right back out, obviously not wanting to take chip or risk the burn on Tauros. So I just go into Jellicent, and I believe here I do just recover. And yeah, so here I was fairly certain he was going to go into Machamp, and because I don't have Mudsdale, I have to play in a certain way to keep Machamp at bay. So I double into Vileplume on that turn, and with Vileplume I can just obviously Strength Sap, and you know, any damage taken from Machamp would be negated with the Strength Sap from Vileplume. But he does bring in Salazzle, and on the turn that he did bring in Salazzle, I was fairly certain that he was just going to Toxic. You know, it was a free Toxic on literally anything except Center Scorch, but I wasn't going to risk Center Scorch because I didn't want to die to like a Sludge Wave or something, or 2 Sludge Waves or something like that. So I go into Tauros knowing I'll be able to outpace now that I'm Scarf, and knowing that it doesn't really need its HP, I just need it to get damage off to break down his team a little bit. So that is exactly what I proceed to do. I go into Tauros on the Toxic, and I just go for a Body Slam, takes a nice chunk. Oh, I go for an Earthquake. Oh, I thought I went for a Body Slam. Okay, so that was a misplay. I go into Jellicent, then I double into Vileplume. I was expecting him to go back out into Machamp, but he didn't, so that's fine, I guess. Vileplume, you know, it doesn't die. But I go into Salazzle, and I believe I just Giga Drain here. No, he goes into Salazzle, I just Giga Drain here. Get some health back, go back into Scent Scorch. I was expecting a Flamethrower here, but honestly, I should have just gone straight into Jellicent. I had no reason to risk Center Scorch the way I did. So anyway, I go into Center Scorch, and obviously it's just going to die to 2 Sludge Waves. And then I bring in Tauros, and here I believe that I Body Slam. And yeah, I do Body Slam here. Vaporeon, I want to force a Wish with Vaporeon, so I Body Slam again, make sure he'll stay in. Then I go to Vileplume, because obviously Vileplume will be able to pressure Vaporeon. So here I just Giga Drain, and he just sacks P2, which is the right play because he doesn't really have anything to switch into P2, especially with Salazzle being so low. So P2 just dies, and then he brings in, I believe he brings in Salazzle, and that's nearly dead. So I go to Silvally because I wanted to pivot into the Sludge Wave. Looking at my team, it was the best move for him to lock himself into, not lock himself into, but go for it because it hits everything. So I go into Silvally to take the initial Sludge Wave, then I go into Jellicent expecting a Flamethrower, but he just Sludge Waves again, and that's completely fine, to be honest. In hindsight, looking back, going to Silvally was just a risky and pointless play. I shouldn't have done that. I should have just gone straight into Jellicent. And it wouldn't have even mattered that I went to Silvally if he went for a Toxic, because, you know, Salazzle has Corrosion, so I would have been able to get Toxic anyway. But anyway, I get Toxic now, and I just killed Salazzle, which is a fairly nice trade on my end. So here I was expecting to be faster, actually, but I guess this Vaporeon has some speed because he outruns my Jellicent, and obviously he's able to get the Wish off before the taunt. So here I decided to just cut my losses and get the burn off on the Vaporeon, try and whittle it down a little bit. Since obviously it doesn't have any leftovers, it's going to rack up the damage. And then here I wanted to go to Silvally. I went to Silvally on Vaporeon because I wanted to, you know, do further damage with U-turn and get a little more chip in before Jellicent dies. But he actually doubles to Machamp, and this works out either way because I can just U-turn out and let Jellicent die. So that is exactly what I proceed to do. And yeah, Jellicent just dies to a knockoff here. Bring in Vileplume because it's the only thing that can really handle Machamp here. I just Giga Drain right off the bat. And then right here I believe I just Strength Sap. Yep, and that is exactly what I do. I was fairly certain that he was going to knock the first time, so that's why I went for a Giga Drain. And yeah, as you can see, this Facade is going to do nothing after the initial drop. It did quite a lot in the first one, but you know, Strength Sap it's a pretty good healing move. I'd argue it's one of the best right now, if not the best. So anyway, I Strength Sap that, and I go for now I'm in a position where Vileplume can win. You know, Vileplume, all it needs to do is just like set up once and Giga Drain. But no,
he needs some milk.
He crits my Vileplume and I die. And yeah, that was really unfortunate for me. So here, having no choice, I have to go to Tauros, and I just Body Slam, try and get it into range, then try to chip it with Silvally. I actually have Rock Slide on Silvally, so I go for Rock Slide, trying to flinch it out. But as you can see that I miss quite a few Rock Slides in this little exchange. So I went for Rock Slide and missed last turn. He goes for a Protect and Wishes, and it just carries on like that for a bit. And I miss again and Rock Slide again. And yeah, you get the picture. So it just goes back and forth like this for a little bit. And then my man says unlucky. I'm like, bro, man, just don't say anything, man. Just just let me suffer in peace, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, so pretty much lose this game due to some unfortunate luck, but you know, that's how the game goes sometimes. And yeah, I'm gonna go straight into game 2. Okay, so game 2, I brought a more offensive team, you know, straight back to my normal playstyle. I'm an offensive player by nature, so I didn't want to mess around with any stall, any balance, none of that. I just wanted to get in there, you know, have like a 20 turn game and win. So, looking at my team compared to his, I have an insane team matchup. Executor goes in, Tauros kind of destroys his team. Yeah, everything kind of just goes crazy. So I was looking at his team. I was fairly certain he had a Scarf Persimmon in the back there, so I actually have a Scarf Espeon. Now, Scarf Espeon, if you didn't know, is not really very common, so I was fairly sure that I'd be able to get a surprise kill turn 1. So I lead off with Espeon, leads off to Persimmon, and boom, Persimmon is gone turn 1. Very happy with that start. And so he goes to Silvally Steel. I think it's Silvally Steel, yeah. So I go to Vaporeon knowing I'll be able to take anything he goes for. And he actually U-turns out, which is a good play, goes to Executor, and these Executor run specs quite a lot, so I protected to see what he'd lock himself into. Switch out, go into Sand Slash, and take so much from this Leaf Storm. Oh my god, I was surprised, but anyway, I just set up rocks here. I was fairly certain he was about to defog here, so I go into Vaporeon knowing that I'd be able to regain momentum through Flip Turn. So I just Flip Turn as he Toxics, and I go into Tauros from there. And I went for Earthquake because I was fairly certain that was a neutralizing gas, Wheezing. And I think he thought he had Levitate, but that's why he sent it in, but it just dies in 2 hits, so that works out for me. Anyway, he goes to Executor to Revenge, which is a good play. I just go to Sand Slash. I don't need it for too much except switching into Executor. So I absorb the Draco the first time around with Sand Slash, then I go into Centiskorch knowing I'll be able to live 1, then outpace. So I go into Centiskorch, then I just Leech Life as he goes into Rhydon, which is a fair play. And Rhydon just dies to a Power Whip after, so I don't think he had much room to maneuver in that case, and he just lets Rhydon die. And so he brings in Tauros. I just sack Sand Slash as he goes for a sub, and that is actually a little bit of a problem, but thankfully for me he has close combat, which means that Vaporeon will be able to kill or beat the sub with a Flip Turn. So that's what I do. Then I go into Espeon just to Revenge, and I don't want to mess around with the Tauros, so I just went straight for a Psychic to kill it. And so he goes into Executor. That's cool. I bring in my own Executor to sacrifice it. Don't really need it at all. So Executor dies, I bring in Centiskorch as it just pretty much wins straight from here. So I just Leech Life as he Toxics to Silvally. I know he Toxics to Centiskorch, and then I kill it off with a Fire Lash. And then he brings in his Executor, and that is obviously just going to die to... Well, it's not going to die the first time around, but you get the picture. And yeah, I'm able to just win with Tauros, I believe, yeah, and just Body Slam. And yeah, that was game 2. That was a clean game, no hacks at all, which I was happy about, and it was quick as well, so I like that. But anyway, I'm gonna go straight into game 3. Okay, so here is game 3. Game 3, I was looking at his team, and Machamp is a big problem. Now Machamp's actually been banned from RU, got banned yesterday I think, but yeah, it was a huge problem to my team, and this is the team I actually used from last round. So I thought, you know, it could work again. But anyway, looking at the team matchup, I think Drapion was the best lead. It gets a knockoff on pretty much everything, including Machamp, which would help deal with it significantly, because obviously no Flame Orb, no Guts Boost, things like that. And you know, just had a good matchup. So I lead off with Drapion as he leads off with Machamp, and I knock off because I don't really have a choice, knocking off his Flame Orb, essentially making the Machamp not as strong as it can be, and making it so much easier to deal with, allowing Aromatisse to like switch into Facades and stuff like that. So yeah, that was very helpful turn 1. So I go into Aromatisse to absorb whatever the next hit is, and Facade obviously does like 19%, which is nothing. So here I believe I just Moonblast because I just want the Machamp gone, don't want to deal with it any further. But he goes to P2 on the Moonblast. I just decide to get a Wish off because no reason not to. I actually go into P2 here because I was expecting him to attack again, expecting me to go into Drapion to get the Wish off, but he actually teleports, which I found to be a strange play. And then he teleported into Rotom on my Porygon. So I like looking at my team compared to his. I could tell that his rotom was a scarf rotom, and he didn't need a scarf, and so he'd be able to trick. And I thought he was either going to trick or volt switch. People don't really like to trick on the first turn, or like the first time a choice Pokemon is in. So I went into rotom-frost because it was the best mid ground between trick and volt switch from his rotom. So he does just volt switch out, and that's fine. He goes into P2, and I don't actually need my scarf at all, so I just trick it away and take away the P2's EVLI, and yep, that's all good with me. So I just volt switch out as he try attacks again, and I go into Rhydon, and this is the perfect chance to just get up rocks, but it actually isn't, because I just realized he had Espeon, and that's why I didn't go for rocks. I went for Rock Blast instead, because it just hits everything for good damage. Even if he went into Machamp, I just have a safe switch in the form of Aromatisse. But I actually missed the Rock Blast versus Rotom, which is obviously very unfortunate. Here I was fairly certain he was just going to trick, so I go into Drapion to give him a Black Sludge, of course. And yeah, that works out. Get a knockoff again, goes into Rhydon, that is also really good for me. Go into Arctovish just to immediately threaten out the Rhydon. And here I just go for Officious Rend. In hindsight, I probably should have subbed, but I was scared of like a Rock Blast from Rhydon. But anyway, he goes for a Scald with Jellicent against Arctovish, which I didn't really understand why. But I'm able to set up a sub against the Jellicent, and he goes for a Hex, doesn't actually break sub, which is nice. Go for a Freeze Dry just to see how much he'd be doing. Only do 34%, which isn't great, but I figured I could either like try and whittle it down, try and get a crit, but eventually I just get tired as we do this back and forth for a few turns. So I decide to actually force the recover with Freeze Dry and go into Rotom. And then with Rotom, I take this opportunity to get a defog off as he goes into Rhydon, and that is all good for me. And then here I believe that I Blizzard, but unfortunately I missed the Blizzard, which would have put the P2 in range of a 2-hit KO. So, you know, that sucks. But anyway, I just Volt Switch out as he teleports again. Going to Arctovish. Now here I was kind of expecting a double switch. I could have switched into Drapion directly and just threatened out Espeon, but I didn't want to risk a Dazzling Gleam. So I thought that he'd probably go like into a mid-ground switch that could handle Drapion as well as handling P2, because I could have switched into either of those. So I was low-key expecting Machamp to come in on the double, or Rhydon even, for him to get rocks up. So I stayed in and went for Officious Rend, and unfortunately it backfires a little bit, and I do actually die to a Psychic. But it's not terrible for me, because Arctovish wasn't super important in this matchup between Jellicent and Rotom Wash, and between Jellicent and rotom-mow, I mean. It didn't really have too much room to do stuff, so it's not a big deal. So I go into Drapion to revenge, and I believe I just go for an Earthquake. I didn't want to knock because I didn't want to... because like I'd already knocked stuff on his team, so he already had plenty of things that could absorb it. So I was low-key expecting like Rhydon to come in, so that's why I went for an Earthquake. But he brings in Machamp, and that works as well, gets some damage off on that. So I just go into Aromatisse on the Bullet Punch, and I believe here I just Moonblast as he knocks off, takes my leftovers. I'm fine with that. Machamp is gone. And yeah, biggest threat is down, so I'm happy with all that. Anyway, I go into rotom-frost on the Rhydon because I was fairly certain that he was going to set up rocks again. Go for a Blizzard because I was fairly certain that he wasn't going to switch, because last time I obviously defogged. And I missed the Blizzard, so yeah, he's been very lucky in this whole series so far. And I go into Rhydon because it's my only choice. At this point, the match was not looking good for me. It was kind of annoying actually. But anyway, I go into Rhydon, and I knew my Earthquake would kill him because he didn't have EVLI anymore. I wasn't too sure why he didn't switch. I feel like that was a pretty big misplay on his part. But anyway, he goes to Jellicent. And I believe here is where I work out that I actually completely wall this Jellicent because it's Scald, Hex, Recover, and Taunt, and I have a Charge Beam P2. So this is where I realized that, oh, I can win with P2 here, because obviously if I get enough Charge Beams, I can just sweep afterwards because he has nothing to stop it, right? So I believe here, like, I just go for some Charge Beams. I go for some Tri Attacks, expecting a switch. I kind of wanted to whittle down the Rotom-mow just so he couldn't trick me back a Black Sludge, because that would have put me on the back foot a little bit. But anyway, I go for so many Charge Beams here, and so many Tri Attack. I go for so many Charge Beams, sorry, and I don't get any boosts, so I got kind of annoyed with that. Switched out to Rhydon. I figured, okay, I can get rocks up. I wasn't obviously too scared to go for Stealth Rock because rocks were already up on my side of the field, so if he went to Espeon, it wouldn't have been a big deal. So let me just go back one turn because there is something key that I want to point out. Here, as I went to Rhydon, I set up rocks. I was fairly certain that as he brought in Jellicent, he was going to double. So if he got this turn right and predicted me to go into Aromatisse, I would have been on the back foot in such a big way, because he would have been able to trick me a Black Sludge, and I probably would have lost the game. So I had to make an aggressive play since I am on the back foot, and I predicted the double into rotom-mow. And yeah, I actually catch the rotom-mow with a Rock Blast, and I was very happy with that. But unfortunately, I only get 2 hits, so I really just cannot catch a break this game. This game has been, this whole series actually has just kind of been in his favor completely. So anyway, I decided to stay in with Rhydon. I didn't want to let anything else take the Black Sludge, and if he Volt Switched, I would have been able to stop it, or even if he Leaf Stormed, I would have been able to go into Drapion after and get some knocks going, and that would have been fine as well. So he actually tricks me the Black Sludge, and that's fine. So Rhydon just dies, and I bring in Aromatisse because I was fairly certain he wasn't going to go into Jellicent due to my own P2, and he wasn't going to go into Espeon because of Drapion. So for him, P2 is the best mid ground. I predict that, I go into Aromatisse, and I use this chance to get off a Wish, and obviously I get Toxic, but that doesn't matter because I am Aromatherapy, so I am able to get that Aromatherapy completely off. Now here I was expecting some sort of, well, actually I wasn't expecting anything because I went into P2, which was obviously a safe switch into Jellicent. So I go into P2, and I was fairly certain that here he was just going to recover, so I think I get it Toxic just because P2 is the kind of only annoying thing that's kind of stopping. But anyway, I Charge Beam, and here I misplay a little because I was actually able to trace my own my own Aroma Veil from his P2 with my P2. So I actually should have got this Jellicent Toxic, but for some reason it just didn't go through my mind. But anyway, at this point I remember thinking, okay, I'll happily take a Scald Burn because that's better than getting poisoned, and I'll be able to last much longer in the game and win anyway. But unfortunately for me, he is not burning me with Scald, and I'm not really getting that many boosts with Charge Beam. I think I only got 2 from that whole exchange. So I Charge Beam as P2 comes in. He Toxics. At this point I'm like, that's fine, I just want this P2 gone because I can just Aromatherapy with Aromatisse later. And so I believe that is what I proceed to do because of Aromatisse's ability, I obviously can't get taunted, so that's very helpful. So I just go for Aromatherapy, curing Aromatisse and P2. So yeah, things are actually looking good, and a complete 180 from earlier in the game. And I think if I hadn't made that double with rotom-mow, I would definitely be losing right now. But anyway, we go like back and forth with this Wish Protect thing, as then I switch out into P2 because I got tired of it, just wanted to absorb the Water Absorb and completely wall Jellicent. So here I start going for Charge Beams, and yeah, I just essentially sweep from here because I get enough Charge Beams, get up to like +5 or +6 even, because yeah, I get up to +6, and then I just kill the Espeon with a Tri Attack. And my guy, yeah, Laurel was not too happy, as you can see. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this series. I certainly had fun making this video. And yeah, leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Peace.